Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News Update. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Today, I'm highlighting news yet again from right here in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's all about the continued abuse of power by this Kamala Prasad administration by continuing to use a state of emergency in order to imprison citizens via PDOs without giving them a right to a fair trial, without ensuring that charges are laid, otherwise releasing them. It's total nonsense that is taking place. So let's read this article here. As public skepticism grows over the state's use of preventive detention orders and successive states of emergency, Attorney Judy Kublal Singh has called for amendments to the emergency powers regulations or their repeal. I believe it should be repealed because you can't trust politicians, especially right in the PNM and the UNC. We know for sure all what the PNM and them saying, hey man, when 2030 come, UNC gonna lose and we gonna win. Yeah, I know that. Because Kamala has destroyed UNC's chances of ever winning again. Right? But we all know that PNM gonna do the same. Unless the Privy Council strikes down this law completely, PNM is going to do the same. They're going to use excuses. Rowley, with all what he playing, he condemning things right now. Rowley declared crime as a health crisis and use a state of emergency. And that police commissioner at that point in time, right? I believe it was still Pastor Praying Mantis earlier. They claimed as though crime was being reduced because of the state of emergency. So the TTPs will always enjoy abusing their authority, no matter which political party right now is in office. And we don't know if a third party will be any different when it pertains to abuse of power. So you know what? Just strike down these laws so that no politician can be able to use it. Fight crime a proper, legitimate, and democratic way. You know what's the sad thing about it? There's so many Trinidadians right now, especially the UNC right now, because it's UNC in office. They don't care that Kamala Prasad says is transforming our nation into a dictatorship in order to fight crime, you know. Because there are radicals right here in Trinidad and Tobago that even praise dictatorships throughout the Middle East and around the world for having low crime rates by oppressing the citizens of their nations, you know, people. Telling it's an evil time that we are living in. And yet these same hypocrites, if and when most likely PNM wins in 2030, will start back to chant, oh, dictatorship, police state, separation of powers, a penny must go. Why? Because their precious UNC is no longer in office. People care more about politics than preserving our democratic rights here in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's on both sides. Kublal Singh on Saturday joined the former House Speaker and Attorney Nizam Mohammed in questioning the regulations, particularly the extraordinary powers granted to the state to detain citizens, following the month-long detention and subsequent release of prominent businessman Dominic Hadid and his wife Genevieve Hadid. Dominic Hadid didn't even have anything to do with the conversation, you know. And Genevieve Hadid and her aunt, Star Sabga, was simply having a private conversation on phone, which the state mackled on, right? They spied on these individuals. And you see, as you think about it, we need to find out if the state had any justifiable reason to spy on these people to begin with. Or was it done for political reasons and political reasons only? This is what we need to find out. And whoever agreed, or whoever instructed the spying to take place should be held criminally accountable for their actions. Not just any lawsuit. Held criminally accountable for their actions. What took place was beyond horrible, was beyond despicable people. It was totally undemocratic and extremely disturbing. Both spoke at the Cipriani Labour College on Saturday afternoon as part of the People's Roundtable discussion on citizens' constitutional rights of privacy within their homes. Police officers should not be invading your home without a warrant. And you're not supposed to receive a warrant unless you have credible information that person has most likely committed a crime or has something in their home that is illegal, is in possession of something illegal. Also, you're supposed to have the constitutional rights to be able to peacefully protest anywhere in your country. No restricted zones. And of course, you're also supposed to have the constitutional rights to a fair trial without being detained via preventive detention order indefinitely without charges being laid. Kublal Singh said she had initially been hesitant to comment publicly on the matter, which was before the courts. Yeah, because you're probably afraid to end up being targeted by this demonic Roger Alexander, UNC, Kamala Prasad administration. She questioned whether the emergency powers were to be considered just law, impartial, allowing for due and open process. There's nothing impartial or due, there's no sort of due process here. Contrary to what the radical UNC fanatics are saying right now, there's no due process. Due process only takes place if it is charges are laid and then evidence is presented in court. Months and months are passing and people are being incarcerated without charges being laid, people, based on intelligence. But if there was actual evidence, they would have been charged. Any law that authorizes the imprisonment of people or citizens with only the facade of protection that was the intent and purpose of setting up a review tribunal, but really takes away any rights that you have if you are unfairly detained, unless you can mount effective legal action, it cannot be just law. The decision to detain and arrest must not be placed in the hands of any one individual, especially a politician, Kublal Singh said. And right now, that individual is the Minister of National Security. I'm not even going to say Homeland Security because all Kamala trying to do right now is follow America. I love America, you know, and I love conservatism to a great extent. But Kamala is just basically Mama Guy in Trump because Kamala is not governing our nation like a conservative, anyhow you take it. She's moving like a socialist, democrat, autocrat. She added that detention should only be used for specific periods and that where there is insufficient evidence to lay charges, individuals must be released. Exactly. Even if you detain somebody for about 4 days or 5 days or a week for the most, right? Because you really have some kind of credible intelligence that this person is about to commit a crime or has committed a crime. After that, and you cannot obtain any type of credible evidence, you're supposed to release them pending the outcome of the investigation. If you do end up finding any sort of evidence to prove that they have committed a crime and so that charges can be laid, well then fine. Arrest them or whatsoever and take them to court. She said significant and dangerous executive overreach is enabled under the extended SOEs and questioned the powers given to the Minister of Homeland Security under the regulations. As I keep saying over and over again, people, you're not supposed to use a state of emergency to fight crime. And people like Ramesh Lawrence Barrage is saying the same things. It's not just only working class individuals like myself that are saying that. Well-educated, well-experienced lawyers are saying the same thing. The world is saying the same thing. You are not supposed to be fighting crime. I mean, using an SOE to fight crime. Crime is an ongoing issue. And therefore, if it is you're using a state of emergency to fight crime, that means that you will be using it for your whole term in office. And therefore, then it is a dictatorship. Because for the next 3.5 to 4 years, rights will be infringed upon and suspended. All of us are adults in the room. We know how the politicians operate in this country. Exactly, they are vindictive and deceptive. Is the minister listening to anyone? No, he isn't. And no, the prime minister isn't either. All she's listening to is her fanatics, very small base. If so, who is he listening to in making these decisions to detain certain persons and not others? That is food for thought, she said. Kublal Singh said the potential for abuse of state of power through the use of PDOs had shocked many ordinary citizens who may have assumed that normal principles of due process and the presumption of innocence continue to apply during a state of emergency. Under the UNC and even the PNM, it doesn't. She also noted what she described as a shocking and sickening knee-jerk reaction from some individuals who warn citizens to be cautious about commenting on such cases for fear of being held in contempt of court. That is what these politicians are doing. They're trying to tell us to stay quiet and let them do whatever it is they want. Otherwise, people, I'm telling you. So that's the end of the article there. But I'm telling you, we need to speak out peacefully, democratically, speak out, and let these politicians know that they cannot continue to trample upon the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, trample upon our constitutional rights to free speech, rights to be able to have personal discussions with our family, whether via phones or whatsoever, without the state spying on us, rights to a fair trial, rights to be able to protest peacefully anywhere in our country, and also rights to be released from detention if there's insufficient evidence in order to lay charges against us for committing or attempting to commit a crime. Kamla Persad-Bissessar has become the same evil dictator whom she criticized for 9.5 years. You have no shame, Madam Prime Minister. And it's only your radicals, a very few in this country, the hardcore radicals of the United National Congress and people in the TTPS that loves to abuse the authority. Those are the only individuals that are supporting you right now, along with your three musketeers. Well, one is in the TTPS anyhow, and the other two musketeers, Roger Alexander and John Jeremy. The rest of them playing the support in here, like Philip Edward Alexander. He used to condemn using these types of draconian measures, so he's just being a hypocrite. These others, I believe, they genuinely love. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. I don't know anybody's minds and hearts, but I believe they are the ones that are actually encouraging this woman to transform our nation into a police state. I really do believe so. One was a former PNM, you know, people. One was a former PNM. I'm talking about John Jeremy. And the other never, ever, ever showed any sort of support for UNC until last year. That is Roger Alexander. All of a sudden, he became a UNC after years of never showing any support for that party. It begs the question, why? It begs the question, why?
Weather report for Wednesday, July 29, 2026, Trinidad and Tobago. The weather forecast for Wednesday, July 29, 2026 in Trinidad and Tobago calls for partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy skies with daytime temperatures peaking at 30 degrees Celsius and dropping to a low of 24 degrees Celsius. According to the official Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, the region will experience a few showers that may become heavy during the morning hours, bringing a risk of street or flash flooding and gusty winds. Additionally, a mild concentration of Saharan dust will be present in the atmosphere, creating slightly hazy conditions. Atmosphere and marine conditions. Expect sticky conditions ranging from 70% to 95% humidity. Winds will move from the east to southeast at 5 to 35 km per hour. The heat index will feel like 33 degrees Celsius during peak hours. Marine conditions feature moderate seas with open water waves hitting 1.5 to 2.0 meters. Spring tides are currently in effect, so mariners and beachgoers should exercise caution. Bible quote of the day. Psalm 21-3. A prayer for help in times of trouble. A Psalm of David. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support from Zion. May he remember all your sacrifices and accept your burnt offerings.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news update. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.